Okay, so number 10, um, we've got f of x equals ln of x. And we're trying to turn it into g of x. And that g of x looks kind of nasty. There's so many different things done to it. And we get to use these different transformations. And we can do them in any order we want here. The only thing is we have to say what order and what the function turns into each time. So let's look at the parent. We'll start with parent function. So the parent function, that should be pretty obvious, is just y equals ln of x. Okay. Now I'm just going to pick stuff and put them in an order. I don't really care what order you pick. Some orders will be easier than others, but I'm going to show you you can do it in any order you want. So let's start by shifting it. So I'm going to do a horizontal shift by 5 units. And it's possible that when you do a shift, you don't realize it later on. That might change how much you actually needed to shift by because you end up distributing something, stuff like that. So I'm going to do this a couple different ways, and you'll see what happens if I do this in the wrong order or a backwards order, stuff like that. You just have to work backwards a little bit. So if I shift 5 units, let's go to the right. Then this is going to be y equals ln. And then since it's a horizontal shift, I'm going to change my x into x minus 5, right? When you do these horizontal and vertical things, you're only changing x or you're changing everything, all of y, right? So it's always just replace the x or change everything. Okay, so let's see. Why don't we do a horizontal shrink now? That's that 2 right here. So if I do a horizontal shrink by 1/2, then what that's going to do is now I'm going to replace my x with a 2x. Okay, so y ends up being ln of 2x minus 5. You don't distribute that 2 because all I'm doing is replacing the x. Any horizontal shift or shrink or stretch, you just replace the x from your previous function. Okay, so that's the same thing as if I took away those inner parentheses, 2x minus 5. All right, let's do the flip over the y-axis. So a reflection over y. Okay, when I reflect over the y, that's the same thing as taking my x and making it a negative x. So I'm only going to do it to the x term. So this becomes, from the previous function here, 2 times negative x minus 5. So that's the same thing as just saying ln of negative 2x minus 5. Now it's starting to look like what I want it to look like. Let's do a vertical shift. Okay, so I'm going to do a vertical shift here. And let's just take a guess. It looks like it'll be 3 units up. Okay, if I do 3 units up, then that's the same thing as adding 3 to everything I had before. So it's 3 plus everything I had before. Okay, now I notice you have this negative in front of the ln. So I'm going to have to flip the thing over the x-axis. So let's do our reflection over the x-axis. So if I do a reflection over the x-axis, then that's the same thing as taking my y that I had before and turning it into a negative y instead. So y is going to become negative. So it's negative everything I had before. 3 plus ln negative 2x minus 5. Now at this point, you might realize, well, that's going to give me a negative 3, not a positive 3. So that means in the previous step, when I said 3 up, really what I should have done was 3 down and make this negative so that this can be negative. Then when I distribute, I get what I want. I get a positive 3 plus a negative ln of x, so minus ln, and then the rest stays the same here. And that's what we're going for. So that's one way of doing it. Let me do it one other way just to show you it doesn't matter what order I pick so long as I'm careful about how I adjust things. Okay, so in this one, I'm just going to pick an order. So we'll do parent function first, then we'll do a vertical shift Then we'll do a vertical stretch or shrink. Well, actually, notice we never ended up stretching or shrinking it vertically, so I'm just going to leave that out. We'll do a horizontal shrink. We'll do a horizontal shift. We'll reflect over the x, and we'll reflect over the y. Now, this might not be a great order to do it in, but it'll work. So the parent function, y equals ln of x. Then I'm going to shift it vertically, and maybe I'm going to guess the wrong direction. I don't know. So let's just say shift up 3, right? So then y is going to be 3 plus ln of x. Now, if you get good at looking ahead or deciding what order to do, you're going to find out that I'm doing this backwards. I'm going to have to change that later on. But maybe you don't see it, so we'll just trial and error it. Okay? Horizontal shrink. Well, you know that's going to be a factor of 1/2, right? Because of the 2 here. So that's going to be y equals 3 plus ln. And then since it's a horizontal thing, I'm only changing the x. So the x that was before was just an x. Now it's going to be a 2x. Okay, let's do the horizontal shift. Well, it looks like it's going to be 5 units to the right. So let's try that. 5 right. Okay, y equals 3 plus ln. Now remember, I'm only changing the x from the previous thing. So I'm not changing 2x, I'm just replacing the x. So it's going to be ln of 2x minus 5. Okay, now the problem there is when I distribute, that's going to become a 10. And I only want a 5 there. So what I really need to do is shift 5/2 units, right? So it's really going to be 5/2 units to the right. Because then when I distribute, that'll become 3 plus ln 2x minus 5. So now it's starting to look more like what I want. If I reflect over the x, that means take all my y's and make them negative. So my y's, I'm going to throw a big negative in front of everything. I'm going to take that previous function that I had. But the problem is now when I distribute, I'm going to get that -3 just like I did in the previous example. So all the way back up here where I said up 3, really what I want is down 3. So that makes this negative, that makes this negative, that negative, and this negative. And now when I distribute, I'm going to get +3 minus ln 2x minus 5. Now what I need to do is reflect over the y. Reflecting over the y is the same thing as changing the x to -x. Just the x, right? So just the x is going to become a -x. So now y will equal 3 minus ln 2 times -x minus 5. So this is going to turn into 3 minus ln -2x minus 5, which is what we want. Okay, you can try different methods too, but no matter what, you should always end up with the right thing at the end. If you're still confused about that, definitely come find me so I can help you practice it.